जाएगा आई थिंक। आपको दिख रहा है लगभग इतनी हाइट होगी सर की। एंड दिस वन
एक पेन बुक यहाँ रख देते हैं।
पेन चाहिए। Gentlemen, please settle down, and I have the pleasure to announce that we are being joined by our dignitaries on the dais. A very, very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a very, very warm welcome to the CII India Europe Business and Sustainability Conclave 2023. This is the opening of this conclave, the inaugural session, and for this we have with us our Dr. S. Jaishankar, Honorable Minister of External Affairs, His Excellency Mr. Lars Løkke Rasmussen, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Kingdom of Denmark, His Excellency Mr. Jan Lipavsky, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Czech Republic. And from CII, we have Mr. Sanjiv Bajaj, President, Confederation of Indian Industry, and Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General, CII, who I will now invite to give the opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Dr. S. Jaishankar, the Honorable Minister for External Affairs of the Government of India, His Excellency Mr. Lars Løkke Rasmussen, the Minister for Foreign Affairs of Denmark, His Excellency Jan Lipavsky, the Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Czech Republic, Sanjiv Bajaj, the President of CII, High Commissioners, Ambassadors, Ministers, Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. And in partnership and under the leadership of the Minister of External Affairs and in partnership with the Ministry of External Affairs, this conclave is the India-Europe Business and Sustainability Conclave, and we are indeed most delighted to host this. It's great to have such a phenomenal presence from across Europe and, of course, from India, both the official and the government and the business delegation. I'd like to first extend a very, very special welcome to our chief guest of this session, Dr. S. Jaishankar, the Honorable Minister of External Affairs. His dynamism, his knowledge, his experience has really won India many, many, many friends across the world, and because of his extremely rich and varied experience, he has that his inputs, especially to the business community, has also led us to really work very deeply and engage with many of you and many other parts of the globe. And it's been always a great pleasure and an honor to have him in our midst to get his thoughts and inputs as to how we can, in fact, deepen our business links. And in this conclave, which is focused on business and sustainability, we have such eminent people also from the business who are pretty much involved in already from India into Europe, and many of you companies who have come from Europe already engaged in India. Some of you are household names, some of you are pretty much well invested here. I'd also like to welcome especially His Excellency the Foreign Minister of Denmark for his presence, and we had a lovely session earlier in the morning, and it's an honor to take forward the close ties that our Honorable Prime Minister, when he visited Denmark, and he had a business delegation along with him, and those ties have got renewed pretty much today once again. Also welcome His Excellency the Foreign Minister of the Czech Republic, and we are honored to have you to really once again with us, and the Czech Republic has been a very, very important economic partner for India. Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, we are indeed very, very overwhelmed by the tremendous presence of and response that we have received for this India-Europe Summit. We have here today around 450 odd delegates, 200 from India and 250 from 37 countries. However, due to the limited capacity, we didn't expect this type of in-person response. we have really had to go through the registration requests, and we had to restrict numbers. But fortunately, there is a large presence today also online. We also got a good response from thought leaders to be a part of the deliberation. So we have close to 40 good, high quality overseas speakers, largely from Europe, and 30 plus another 30 Indian speakers across 12 different sessions that we are planning to do. And over the course of the next couple of days, today and tomorrow, we will be exploring a wide range of topics. You've seen the program structure related to sustainability, business, climate, renewable energy, circular economy, to global value chains, and of course, digital transformation. And we'll hear from some of the most innovative and forward-looking thinkers, both from India as well as from Europe. Again, a large number of them from the business community. And we would really like to know from them the opportunities as we go ahead. Confident that this event, we will be able to follow up on the leads that we get from here, and which will result in, I'm sure, many more new partnerships. That's what we would work for, new ideas, new solutions. And this year, of course, as we know, all of us, is the year of the presidency of India for the G20, and we are working very closely with our government and on the B20, the Business 20. And today's conclave will really feed us into our work on the B20, which we will take forward with many of the countries present here and many who are not. And we would like to really use that to be, because sustainability, climate is again a very, very important vertical for us also in the B20 system. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'd like to welcome our very, very honored and esteemed speakers on the dais, and all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to this inaugural session of a very, very important conclave. Good afternoon, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now invite Mr. Sanjiv Bajaj, President, Confederation of Indian Industry, to give his remarks, please.
Dr. Jaishankar, our Honorable Minister of External Affairs, Excellencies, Mr. Rasmussen, Mr. Lipavsky, Chandrajit, Excellencies of the dais, friends, good afternoon. This conclave comes at a time when the matrix of global equations is rapidly transforming. And while geopolitics is clearly one side of this equation, the other side comprises of multiple shared challenges that, as regions, we must address together. I believe today's conclave, which focuses on business engagement in growth and sustainability between the two regions, is important precisely because it converges the two sides for jointly exploring emerging opportunities as well as acknowledging challenges. With enhanced engagement, the India-Europe business relationship can be the cornerstone for a stable and progressive global economy and can offer new sources for growth. Both regions have recognized the mutual benefits of increased trade and investment and leading to a strong collaboration in various areas, from manufacturing to services to infrastructure sectors. Indian industry is excited about the ongoing FTA negotiations between India and the EU, India and the UK, as well as India and EFTA. We believe that these FTAs have the opportunity to further enhance cooperation between our regions. The emerging contours of our engagement cover many areas, and let me highlight a few. One, post the pandemic, India can increase its partnership with Europe in the field of healthcare innovation. India's vaccine and pharma strengths, our skilled workforce, and R&D, combined with Europe's technology and innovation, can redefine healthcare for affordability and accessibility. Second, the global transition towards renewable energy should be jointly led by Europe and India. And we have both set ambitious targets for renewable energy, and technological innovation partnership in these areas would go a long way. Third, the two regions must also collaborate in digital transformation, whether in fintech, e-commerce, and data protection, to create robust, interoperable digital ecosystems. Fourth is recycling and the circular economy. These are very important components of our engagements. And India's ambitious goal of eliminating single-use plastics and Europe's circular economy action plan share common aspirations. Finally, multilateralism is an essential aspect of the partnership between India and Europe. Both regions must work together for strengthening the multilateral system and creating a more inclusive global order. India has assumed the presidency of the G20 this year and is working with G20 nations to tackle some of the world's most pressing issues. Our Honorable Prime Minister has stressed that India's G20 presidency is a presidency of healing, of harmony, and of hope. On these lines, the priorities for Business 20, one of the most important engagement groups for G20, relates to inclusive global value chains, financing the economic recovery, and digital and financial inclusion, amongst others. CII, as the Secretariat of B20 India, is working with all partners in these areas. India and Europe have a strong and symbiotic partnership which holds immense potential for global growth and recovery. And we look forward to working with our European counterparts to realize this potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bajaj. Before I invite our next speaker, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of His Excellency Mr. Silvio Schembri, Minister of Economy, European Funds and Land from Malta, who's also amidst us, please. Can we hear it for him, please? I now have the pleasure to invite His Excellency Mr. Jan Lipavsky, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Czech Republic, to address us, please.
Minister Jaishankar, Minister Rasmussen, representative of the Confederation of Indian Industry, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the invitation to visit India and to speak at this important forum. This is the first time I am visiting India as the Czech Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the fourth time I am meeting Minister Jaishankar in the past year. This frequency of our contacts demonstrates our mutual interest in strengthening bilateral relations between India and Czechia in all areas. Let me also thank the Confederation of Indian Industry for hosting today's conference. I am accompanied by several members of the Czech Parliament from the Foreign Affairs Committee, including its chairman, Mr. Marek Ženíšek, and a delegation of representatives of companies from the Czech Confederation of Industry, your partner organization. I hope their meetings with the local partners will initiate new business projects. India has traditionally had a prominent place in Czech foreign policy and our trade relations. The Czech government's policy statement mentions India among the democratic partners in the Indo-Pacific with whom we will be deepening our relations. The EU-India relationship gains on importance. India is becoming the most populous country of the world and its remarkable economic growth predestines your country to become the third largest economy before the end of the decade. We do recognize this fact, and we do recognize the role of India is playing for the stability of Asian continent and in world politics. Looking at the topics you will be discussing during this conclave, they have been long-term priorities for the Czech government. They were among the horizontal priorities of the recent Czech presidency in the Council of the European Union. They are part of the Czech Republic strategy for cooperation with Indo-Pacific, and they relate to the ongoing Czech engagement in the UN Economic and Social Council. Of course, our EU presidency primarily had to address the Russian aggression in Ukraine. The European Union denounced this aggression unanimously and resolutely, and it keeps supporting Ukraine in every way. At the same time, however, we continue working with our Indo-Pacific partners in the important agendas you are to discuss today and tomorrow. Let me touch upon them briefly. Czechia wishes to contribute to the post-COVID recovery in India and in Indo-Pacific region. Our companies have competence in the whole spectrum of solutions in manufacturing and supplying medical devices, in medical technologies, healthcare services, or pharmaceuticals. We see a good potential in cooperating with India partners in telemedicine, in microelectronics or optics. The Czech companies have delivered turnkey project in the Indo-Pacific region that serves as a reference. The Czech Academy of Science is a joint project of 6 institutes whose goal is to establish European Center of Excellence in biomedicine and biotechnology. Both of these areas are relevant to mention here in India. We wish to focus on science, research and innovation in the broadest sense, which covers everything you will be discussing. The transition to clean energy is an opportunity to strengthen the cooperation we started during the Czech EU presidency in environmental protection, in green and smart solutions. The global energy crisis induced by the Russian aggression in Ukraine has stressed the need to diversify our energy mix and to work for strengthening the resilience of our partners in the Indo-Pacific. Clean energy transition is a key to this goal, and India is a crucial partner in the region for us. We can succeed together elsewhere in the Pacific as well. I mentioned the Czech government policy statement, and I should like to refer to another of its chapters, digital transformation and digital services. India's investment in ICT in Czechia, the strong presence of company Infosys, is a great example of our joint effort so far. Cybersecurity must go hand in hand with digitalization, and we are interested in enhancing our bilateral dialogue on cybersecurity, cybercrime, and hybrid threats. Another topic of your Conclave's program is food security. We saw the Russian aggression in Ukraine causing significant disruption in exports of grain from Ukraine, as well as food and fertilizers from Russia. It did not only translate into the increase of price of fertilizers, but also to the price of rice, especially affecting the consumers in Asia. It calls for us to focus on food security and to strengthen our value and supply chains. In this context, I would like to mention the use of EU space programs. Their navigation and positioning tools with the data and services offered by the EU Earth Observation Program Copernicus can be used to improve food security and make agriculture in general more efficient and sustainable. As we have shown during the Czech EU presidency in cooperation with the Indo-Pacific partners, the EU space programs are helping in disaster risk reduction. Czechia has a well-developed space segment in research and academia, as well in a private sector. We are supportive of secure, predictable, and reliable supply chains, and this stands behind our interest in working closer with India. It is up to each company to choose its supplier or business partner, but our role as government is to is to create an environment that is favorable to businesses and investment, especially in removing all kinds of trade and administrative barriers. Within the EU, Czechia, as a textbook case, Czechia is the textbook case of an open market economy, dependent on foreign trade, traditionally belongs amongst the advocates of free trade, and just like during our EU presidency last year, we will continue to be vocal supporter of negotiations of free trade agreement between the EU and India. One of the sources of Czech pride and reputation in the world is the Czech education system and our universities. With India, we will intensify the cooperation between universities and research institutes, as well as scientific mobility. But we are also focusing on employment agenda too. India is one of the countries included in the Czech government's program of targeted economic migration, successfully realized since 2019, and the annual quota for employment cards stays valid while preventing human capital flight. You will discuss smart manufacturing and industry 4.0. And since I represent a country with traditionally strong industrial base and innovation potential, I wish to assure that we are interested in mutual exchange of experiences in this domain. Czech companies are offering solutions in smart cities, waste energy, and clean technologies. We are offering our solution and experience, including the preparation of legislation, and we are attentive to the experience and specific needs of our partners in bio-circular green, BCG. I think I have covered most of the topics of Conclave's program. Lastly, I wish to mention mobility. Strong and traditional reference already exists in the relation between our two countries. Let me just mention Java motorcycles and the partnership with Mahindra Group. Škoda Auto that produce locally in line with your government strategy, Make in India, or Tata Trucks that have India as one of the biggest clients in the world. Czechia is interested in offering new solutions for the city and intercity mobility transportation, especially in rolling stock segment. Czech investors are already producing wheel set and their parts for all types of rolling stock here in India. And last but not least, let me invite the present India's business representative to visit the Czech Republic and find new business opportunities with their Czech business partners. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for this conclave, and I wish a successful debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. And I now invite His Excellency Mr. Lars Løkke Rasmussen, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Kingdom of Denmark, to address us, please.
Honorable Minister of External Affairs, Jaishankar, good colleague Lipavsky from Czech Republic, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to be here for this opening of the India-Europe Business and Sustainability Conclave. And I must say that I'm deeply impressed with the progress India has made since my last visit in 2019 in my former capacity as Prime Minister of Denmark. Driving around Delhi these last few days, I have seen electric buses, cars, and even electric auto rickshaws, which is a very concrete sign of the sustainable direction in which India is heading. The relationship between Denmark and India is expanding at a rapid pace and with a clear green direction. Our green strategic partnership is an example for others to follow, and the new Danish government is fully committed to it. Its success rests on our shared values and ambitions. We have joined hands in pushing for a sustainable green transformation. Danish skills and green innovative solutions are in demand here in India, and we are proud to partner with India in achieving a greener future with more sustainable growth and green jobs, to the benefit of India, but also, and that is important, to the benefit of the world. Because I have no doubt that India will pave the way for others to follow. Private sector involvement is crucial for a successful green transition. Danish companies are present here today to demonstrate how their skills and solutions can contribute to a greener India. India is increasingly seen as a key partner in Asia, not just in Denmark, but also in Europe more broadly. India's economic growth and rising importance on the world stage is remarkable. India is an important anchor of stability in the Indo-Pacific region and a strong partner in promoting a rules-based order in the region and globally. I want, therefore, to congratulate you, Minister, on India's impressive G20 presidency. It shows India's growing international importance and readiness to take responsibility for global developments. India's success will be the world's success. Several Indian G20 priorities are also key elements of the green strategic partnership between India and Denmark. And I can assure you that we stand ready to support you in areas where we can make a difference. For a maritime nation like Denmark, freedom of navigation and open shipping routes are a clear shared interest with India. I am pleased that we have agreed to establish an Indo-Danish Center of Excellence on green shipping. A free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific is not only of geostrategic importance, it is also a requirement for the region to prosper. Green shipping is fueled by green, clean energy, an area where Denmark is a global frontrunner. Connectivity is key, not just between countries, but also between people. India and Denmark are working on an agreement on migration and mobility, and we hope to conclude the process in the coming month. And I'm also very pleased that Air India will start flying directly to Copenhagen as of tomorrow. It will be, It will be much easier to go back than when I arrived a few days ago. I hope this will facilitate closer ties, also between businesses, which today is all about. We must take advantage of expanding commercial opportunities. India is already one of the countries where Danish companies have the highest numbers of employees. 166 companies employ close to 100,000 people in India, and I foresee that numbers will increase in the future. A third of those companies expect to invest further in India in the coming years. And I think this is a strong testimony to the opportunities Danish companies see in India. The progress India and Denmark have made is impressive, but we want to deepen our partnership even further. Not just between our countries, but also through stronger ties between India and the European Union and the Nordic countries. For that, I also want to express the hope that we could give more impetus and momentum to the ongoing negotiations about a free trade agreement between Europe and India. I truly trust our partnership will grow even further in the coming years. I very much look forward to driving this effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, I now have the pleasure and privilege to invite our chief guest for today, Dr. S. Jaishankar, Honorable Minister of External Affairs, Government of India, to give the inaugural address.
Mr. Jan Lipavsky, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Czech Republic, Mr. Lars Løkke Rasmussen, my colleague from the Kingdom of Denmark, Mr. Magnus Heunicke, Minister of Environment from Denmark, Mr. Lars Agard, Minister of Climate, Energy, Utilities, Mr. Silvio Schembri, Minister of Economy, European Funds and Roads of Malta, Mr. Sanjiv Bajaj, President CII, and Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, DG CII, dear friends. First of all, let me begin by commending the CII, the Confederation of Indian Industry, for conceptualizing and executing this inaugural edition of the India-Europe Business and Sustainability Conclave. I also congratulate Denmark for partnering us on this conclave, and the Czech Republic, Lithuania, Malta, and the UK for their association with the event. I would particularly appreciate the fact that two of my distinguished colleagues, foreign ministers, are here today sharing the dais. I had an opportunity yesterday and this morning to discuss our bilateral partnerships with them. And my Czech colleague, Jan, pointed out that we had met 4 times in the recent past. I think part of it is an association I had in my diplomatic career with the Czech Republic. I think there's still a hangover from that. And I was reminding Minister Rasmussen that I actually met him when he was here as Prime Minister, when I was one of you in my corporate capacity. We then discussed how to take the relationship forward. And in the years that have passed, there has actually been very commendable progress. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me emphasize that businesses have a primary role in driving sustainability, and that is why we are all meeting here today. The enabler, however, is the larger partnership and the understanding between India and Europe. India and the European Union believe in a multipolar global order, share a commitment to promoting effective multilateralism, and are increasingly considerate to each other's geopolitical, economic, strategic, and security concerns. Visits and exchanges at the highest level are today a regular feature between India and Europe, including at the Prime Minister's level. I have personally interacted with the foreign ministers of all the 27 EU member states and the High Representative of the European Commission at least once last year. I've also met some of them actually multiple times. A good example was there on the dais. And these interactions have contributed to the resumption of the India-EU FTA negotiations, the India-EU Trade and Technology Council, which we call the TTC, the announcement of that, dialogues in areas of security and defense and human rights, and not least, a jump in bilateral trade. For a sharper focus, we recently announced 3 working groups within the India-EU TTC for strategic cooperation in trade, cooperation in green transition, and cooperation in digital partnership. I'm glad that these 3 pillars are reflected in the agenda of this conclave. Allow me to briefly highlight these 3 imperatives, which will surely sustain our business relations, not just our business relationship, but the overarching partnership between India and large parts of Europe, and indeed the sustainability of the planet itself. So, a few words about trade. The EU is one of India's largest and most important trade partners. Our bilateral trade was in excess of US $115 billion in the financial year 2021-22, which is the highest ever. With the UK and other non-EU countries added, I believe that the number is even greater. Now, we expect the India-EU FTA will be a game changer for the India-EU relationship. We look forward to a mutually beneficial, a mutually advantageous conclusion to the negotiation process within a reasonably short planned timeline. India's new approach to trade agreements addresses issues of non-tariff and behind-the-borders barriers, quality standards, and related benchmarks. With like-minded partners, we have actually demonstrated in recent years a fast-track change in our FTA negotiation processes. The FTAs with UAE and Australia were actually concluded in record time. India's large and growing middle-class population makes it obviously a preferred investment destination as well as a lucrative market for our trade partners. India is expected to be the only major economy to keep growing at well above 6% per annum in the foreseeable future, and thus will remain one of the major growth engines of the world. Now, when it comes to the green transition, clean energy and green transition are central to the India-EU connectivity partnership. Synergies have emerged in solar and wind energy, in green hydrogen, smart grids, sustainable urban transports, especially metro projects, waste management, and the circular economy. But to sustain this cooperation, the real ask is capacity building, clean technology transfer, alignment of standards, and cooperation in critical materials. And here, let me say upfront that promoting green financing is the ignition for any long-term result-oriented outcome. India is today one of the leading countries in climate change mitigation commitments and environmental protection. Our low-carbon development strategy lays out the path to a carbon-neutral economy while taking into account specific development goals. We have the third biggest installed renewable energy capacity in the world. Without stressing on our ambitious nationally determined contributions at the UNFCCC, let me say that we will reach our goals even earlier. Now, looking ahead, India's ambitious green hydrogen policy incentivizes an indigenous ecosystem for local needs and exports. In this, we have already seen collaborations between many major European firms and Indian companies. Electric vehicles, as Minister Rasmussen noted, will be the next big thing for a green transition of India's urban landscape. Green transition is also the core of our sustainability goals, and it is enshrined in our agenda for the G20 presidency. And in fact, Prime Minister Modi's LIFE initiative adds the dimension of individual responsibility and ownership of our environment in the synergy with India's declared climate and environmental goals. Now, speaking about digital transformation, last year, many of you are aware that 41% of the world's transactions actually happened in India. Our highly developed tech sector and an increasing pool of quality, skilled human power in the software services sector are obviously a given. Newer technologies like additive manufacturing, high-performance computing, and AI are increasingly the emerging focus. We are also putting together an indigenous chip-making ecosystem. India today can boast of more than 100 unicorns, many of them in the tech sector. But our digital success stories goes beyond these unicorns. It touches the common person. We have pioneered digital public goods on a scale previously unimaginable. Our innovative digital solutions for identification and banking, Aadhaar, and digital transactions, UPI, are unprecedented in reducing transaction costs and turning digital and financial inclusivity into a reality almost overnight for hundreds of millions of our citizens. Our indigenous development of 5G and digital commerce will surely empower our citizens even further. India's development through the digital model is affordable, transparent, scalable, socially transformative, and predominantly open-sourced. This model could be implemented in other countries and be integral to our development partnership and capacity building cooperation with the rest of the world, especially the Global South. Digital connectivity is vital to the India-EU connectivity partnership and can include knowledge exchanges and capacity building in AI, quantum and high-performance computing, 5G and 6G, semiconductors, cybersecurity, and digital platforms. This could also serve to exchange views on strategic, political, and security implications of new and emerging technologies. Europe, I want to emphasize, is a natural partner in these areas. To all this now, let me say a few words on the future of India and the EU partnership. It is a subject on which you can see that the government has invested a lot of resources and attention in recent years. And I share the hopes of Minister Rasmussen and Minister Lipavsky that we will see much more progress in the days ahead. Now, many of you would have read terms like the fastest growing major economy, or well placed to negotiate global headwinds, or one of the world's largest markets, or even home to a youthful and growing quality workforce. These are actually today descriptions that we hear in Europe about India. How did we get there? Allow me to share how our cards have stacked up in recent years. In the last 9 years, Prime Minister Modi has undertaken several structural economic reforms, some of which were clearly politically counterintuitive. Nudging the informal economy to the organized sector, cleansing the financial system, rationalizing taxation, incentivizing production, doubling down on infrastructure and logistics, digitizing the government's interface with its citizens, and ushering in an ambitious energy transition. Each one of this was part of a policy mix which is today paying off. And that, mind you, is still just the beginning. We want our friends in Europe to appreciate that this momentum and its compounding strength will take us towards becoming a developed society by 2047. And along with that will grow the accompanying business opportunities. India's economic comeback and credentials are matched by our geopolitical weight, deriving from a strategic location in the Indo-Pacific region and an increasing defense and first responder capability. Europe and India can strengthen each other's strategic autonomy by reducing dependencies, cooperating on critical technologies, and ensuring supply chain restructuring. The India-EU FTA is therefore a very important goal, and the TTC will provide the structure and strategic guidance to this partnership as it moves forward. So in closing, I would like to say that India's relations with Europe are stronger and deeper than ever before, and this event itself is a testimony of that assertion. Between us rests the largest democratic and free market space globally. The business communities of India and Europe have a large stake and an enabling role in this transformation. I hope your deliberations will reflect what is at stake here not just for us, but for the entire world, and how we can join hands to realize the economic dividends and democratic values that are inherent in our partnership. Thank you for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a great start we had to this maiden edition of this conclave. Some very, very critical points on opportunities as well as the type of collaborations that we can look forward to between Europe and India on a subject which is so very important. I'd really like to thank Dr. Jaishankar, our Honorable Minister for External Affairs, for gracing this very important occasion and talk about, amongst many things, the role of business in sustainability and also how the policy frameworks in India is really giving us this opportunity for business as India really walks the path of a green and circular economy. I'd like to also thank our two other very important and distinguished ministers on the dais, His Excellency Mr. Lars Rasmussen, and also His Excellency Minister Jan Lipavsky, plus also many other ministers who are present here, Minister of Malta, other ministers from Denmark, and many other ministers who are going to join us during the course of the days. It wouldn't have been possible without your presence to make this conclave a really important one. And I'd really like to thank the other business delegations that some of the ministers have brought along, and also other countries which have sent their business delegations. The missions present in Delhi, they have been of great importance to us as we have collaborated together to make this happen. And we are fortunate that Denmark did bring in such a huge delegation, which gave us also our ambassador to come in. I hope such large delegations come in future editions, so that our ambassadors are also able to come in. This, ladies and gentlemen, has been a true collaboration between the government and the industry. As I say that because this conclave has been led by the Ministry of External Affairs and colleagues under Dr. Jaishankar, who have really worked so very much with the business team, the industry team. The CII has been Mr. Sandeep Chakravarti is present here, Mr. Arun Kumar Sahu is also present here, and of course all our missions across Europe. So it's been a great joint venture, if one can say, to see that business from India and Europe, and business and governments and missions across Europe and India, and our government being able to make this happen. We really do look forward to growing this subject as we go along. But very importantly, as I conclude, with sincere thanks to all the dignitaries, we would pick up the important points that comes up during the course of today, tomorrow, and see that we have a follow-up mechanism and really look forward to greater business-to-business collaboration. With that, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very much for being here, and please do enjoy and participate in the rest of the sessions. Thank you.
And before we close this, we have a small token of appreciation from CII for our ministers on the dais. May I request DG CII to... Okay, we'll have Mr. Bajaj hand over this plaque to His Excellency Mr. Jan Lipavsky, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Czech Republic. And now may I request DG CII to hand over this plaque to His Excellency Mr. Lars Løkke Rasmussen, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Kingdom of Denmark. And now once again, I request Mr. Sanjiv Bajaj, President CII, to hand over a token of appreciation to Dr. S. Jaishankar, Honorable Minister of External Affairs, Government of India. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to a close of this session. We'll break for lunch, and we hope to see you all back here at 3 p.m. for the next session. Ladies and gentlemen, lunch for all.